everyone who joined us last week. If you didn't join us last week, you're welcome to go and look at the video, the recording, which has been uploaded to YouTube and is also available via our website. Suite Solutions, very quickly, is a professional services group. We have about 18 people on staff. We've been in business for about 8 years, and we've helped a lot of companies get up and running with DITA and other XML. We're giving this webinar series to give everyone a taste, not just a taste, but a good exposure to DITA, what's involved with getting up and running with DITA. And we hope you enjoy it, and we hope you get a lot of value from this webinar. And of course, you can feel free to be in touch afterwards. We'll talk about that towards the end. So last time we spoke about an introduction to DITA, an overview of XML, and an overview of DITA. And this time we're going to be talking about topics, which is the basic information types of DITA, and maps, linking methods, and I think you'll see those 3 bullets are going to be expanded to fill a lot of interesting content. As we spoke about last time, DITA is a topic-oriented documentation architecture, which basically means instead of what we're used to in the past of managing our documentation based on either monolithic documents or by chapter, with DITA, the content is managed in smaller bite-sized pieces called topics, and then they are strung together to create publications which are represented by maps. Okay, so the 3 basic groups or information types of DITA, I like to call them the basic food groups of DITA, are concept, task, and reference. Okay, the basic idea of DITA is being a topic-based architecture is that each topic, each Lego block, each little concrete piece is meant to answer a single question. Okay, the idea is that you're breaking up different pieces of information that can be either read independently, and someone can get value out of them independently, or be able to be included in multiple publications and be able to make sense in those multiple publications. Okay, so basic information types are concept, task, and reference. A concept is basically a type of information, a type of topic that gives background or descriptive information that explains what something is or how it works, or basically answers the question, what is this? A task, which is probably the most, generally the most used topic, is a basic procedure, a step-by-step instructions for how to do something, or really answering the question, how do I do this? And a reference topic is some type of information that might be easy to look up, some kind of accessory information that might not be necessary to be part of the task or the concept, but someone might want to look that up and get additional information. Now the truth is that there are many other types of topics, and you can really create your own topics. And as we learned last week, DITA has this interesting ability to expand itself and contract itself. That's called specialization. So what we'll see soon is that basic topic types can really be expanded or constrained to become or to create different or new topic types. Some of those topic types are available on open source. You can download them, and you can make them. You can make your own. Some additional topic types, for example, are for glossaries, for learning or training. There's a whole large specialization for learning, which is actually now part of the 1.2 spec. There's a special task for machine industry, which is a little bit more detailed and structured. APIs, troubleshooting, and there's a lot more. And you can go to SourceForge and you can download some. And there's also people in the community that often donate their own specializations. So really, it all comes down to the basic DITA-based topic. Okay, a DITA-based topic, like the mother of all topics, consists of basically a title, a short description, a prologue, which might have some metadata information, we'll get to that, a body, and maybe some related links. Okay, well, and this tree basically, this really kind of represents a tree structure of the document. Okay, and you'll see each of these trees, each of the leaves of the nodes of this tree, or really elements of your document, expand, but this is really the basic structure. And from this basic structure, all of DITA is specialized out to create the base topics we spoke about, the task, concept, and reference, and all of the other different types of topics that exist. Okay, like as we mentioned, we have title. Okay, the only thing that the topic must have is a title. Okay, often it has a short description which describes the purpose or the theme of the topic. It might have an abstract. It may have information about the topic, maybe about the author, about which equipment it belongs to. We'll get to that. The body or the main container of the topic, which has the actual content. Okay, and then some related links. A concept is very similar to a base topic. As you see, it's a concept. And instead of being called the main element of the topic, being called topic, it's called concept. Okay, it has a title, has a short description. It could have an abstract. It could have a prologue. Instead of a body, it's called, the tag is called a con body. Okay, and then you can have related links. Now, each of these nodes on the tree really represents different XML elements. As we spoke about last week, XML has elements and attributes. The elements form the structure of the document, whereas the attributes form tell information about the individual elements, whether it be an ID or conditional information, which we'll talk about. But what I'm trying to show here in these graphs or these illustrations is the basic hierarchy of the document or the topic. Okay, and we'll see soon how that really looks in real life in an XML editor. A task is step-by-step instructions for reaching a certain goal. Okay, so now you can see that task is becoming more structured than, okay, I have a comment, we're not seeing the PowerPoint. If anyone else is having a hard time seeing the PowerPoint, please let me know. Okay, so the task, as we see, is more structured. Okay, so it has a title, okay, a short description like the other one's a prologue, but instead of a body or con body, it has a task body. And inside of the task body, now we can have more structure, okay, more semantic information, like we spoke about last week, that talks about what's inside the document, what content is there, and and using the tags, the elements to describe the content. Okay, so we have a prerequisite element, context. Okay, we'll talk about what these are. Section. We have a set of steps. We can have a result of the procedure. Some examples. Maybe a post-requisite. Okay, follow on, etc. And we'll see that this actually gets broken down even more. Okay. Oops. Here we go, sorry. Okay, where a task body, as we had said, has a prerequisite and a context and section, and the step really can get broken down into even further structure. So for each step in the procedure, you might have a note. You would have the main command or the main procedure or step that you're supposed to do. It's inside the command element. Choices, meaning if you have a list of choices of what might need to be done in the command. Okay, choice table, et cetera, et cetera. And we're not going to go too much into these details because we only have an hour. But the idea here is that DITA provides, like we said before, a semantic structure for modeling the content. Okay. Okay. Now, I'm going to mention again. I'll mention it again later on. But there's a lot in these slides. Again, we only have an hour. If we generally give this in a larger period of time, these slides will be available. So I'm not going to go into too much detail. You're welcome to download the slides and take a look at them and leave more detail. And of course, we'll be happy to be available too after the webinar as well. Okay, but basically the main body element of the task has steps, results, examples, prerequisites. Okay. Okay, and the idea is that as you get up and running with DITA and you come up and running with modeling your own content, and you can basically look and decide, okay, these are the different elements that are available to me in the spec, in the different elements that I can use. And you can decide as a group which elements are relevant for you, for your content, which elements are not relevant to you. And then you can choose which ones to use and which ones not to use. Okay, just because they're there doesn't mean that you need to use them. But the idea behind the standard is to give you a set of content of structural elements that can, that can model, the majority of different types of technical documentation, and then you can go in other types of documentation as well, other types of content. You can use what's relevant to you and not use what's not relevant to you. Okay. A reference, okay, as we said before, is a set of information that can be easily looked up or discovered on an as-needed basis. So it's not as structured as a task. You would have, again, title, short description, prologue, a ref body, and then you might have sections of information, sections with paragraphs, tables of information, and property tables, reference syntax diagrams, etc. Okay, that's the basic idea. Okay, here's a little bit more description about a reference. Okay. And we talked about a little bit before about a short description. Short description is generally recommended to be included in topics. It's actually a matter of controversy. Short descriptions are very useful, but they're also a little bit difficult to create and create them consistently. But in general, a short description is generally output as the first paragraph of the topic. It should be simple enough to be a preview. Like if you're getting a link, a list of links to topics, then the short descriptions are often provided as a preview to the link that someone would read, a sentence or two, to decide whether this topic would be relevant for them to click on and to read or not, especially if you're in a help system or a knowledge-based system. Okay. And there's all kinds of best practices about how to write the short descriptions, which we're not going to go into now. There's whole presentations that you can download and look into about writing short descriptions. Okay. The prologue is kind of like metadata about the topic. And again, there's a huge amount of different types of tags they can stick in there: permissions information, copyright information, who wrote it, the author, etc., as well as metadata about the audience. That the topic is geared towards the category, that maybe the type of topic, the type of task, keywords for an index, product information, which product the topic is relevant to, which brand, which platform, all kinds of other information. Again, these are information that you can decide as an organization to use or not to use. I'll throw a little bit of a tangent here, but often some types of metadata are automatically included inside the topic when you use a content management system. For example, if you're using a database or repository to manage your content, often the name of the author, the permissions, basic management information is already provided by some kind of a tool set or a repository. It's not necessarily useful to put it inside the topic itself. It might be useful to output it automatically when you're publishing your content, but generally folks do not use that. What folks generally do use is the metadata that you see on the screen here to further define who it's relevant to and the context for why this topic was created. And that often becomes very useful when your topics or your content is output to a knowledge-based system or a dynamic publishing system for filtering. Okay? Okay. I'll get another couple of slides and then I'm going to actually show you an example. Okay, so we talked about the structure that I've been showing you up until now is basically the hierarchy or the structural hierarchy of DITA topics. Okay, but within that hierarchy, you can use body elements to fill in the actual content. So for example, let's say I have a task and I have a prerequisite. So the prerequisite can be a sentence, or it can be maybe an ordered list, or it can maybe include a note or a figure. Similar with a post-requisite or contextual information, when I would use this task, okay, or information about a particular step, right? So all these types of structural elements may not be just one single line of text. They may be, again, include a figure, an image, etc. So the body elements are generally supported for almost every structural element in DITA. So wherever you're going to have a structural element, you'll often have, almost always have, the full range of body elements at your disposal to actually write the actual content. But the actual content is contained within the structure. Okay. Okay. In addition to the body elements, which are like line items and ordered lists and unordered lists and images and things like this and tables, we also have things called domain elements, which are kind of like phrases. If you're typing up a paragraph and you're describing a piece of software, and the name or the word that you're writing is really the name of a command or a name of a variable or a name of a file path, okay, or a UI control inside of a user interface. Okay, so whereas in the past we would be used to highlighting that and making it bold or italics or something, or Courier font, or if we're more sophisticated, we would apply a character style in like Word or FrameMaker or something, right? In DITA, remember what we talked about last week, the whole point of XML is, in general, is to separate the format from the content. So if that's the case, how do I call out a UI control or a message block or any of these things and say, oh, I want the user to know that this is not just a word, it is a UI control or a shortcut or whatever it is. And we do that by applying phrase elements or domain elements, okay? And based on the domain element, we can then apply a style sheet to determine what that's going to look like. So in my content, if I'm writing a description of a user interface and I write the name of a UI control or a title of a window, right? If I give it that tag, if I put that element around the name, then later on in my style sheet I can say, oh, a UI control should be bold, okay, or a Courier or whatever you decide it to be. Okay, so a domain element is basically a defined vocabulary that you can use in a common way across all the different topic types, either for semantics, for indexes. You know, for an index entry is another example of a phrase, of setting aside a phrase and determining and applying rules for how the phrase should be used. In that case, it should be plopped out and created and combined into an index. Typographics, information, etc. Okay. In addition, there are common attributes that are useful and can be used in almost all parts of DITA, all the elements in DITA. For example, you have an ID, so that it can use, mostly we use IDs for linking to that content. Okay, we have conref attributes, which we talked about last week. We'll talk about this more a little later on, about linking or bringing in components, reusing components of information inside of other topics. Okay, there is some common control information like importance and revision level and status, which, tell you the truth, not very many people use, but it's there anyway. And a lot of this information, if it's necessary and usable, often people use it as part of the database or repository. But I'm going to put that aside and not talk about it right now. Output class is another attribute. We'll get to that a little bit later. And then conditional attributes. We spoke a little bit last week about how DITA promotes reuse. And one of the ways it promotes reuse is by allowing you to conditionalize your content. The conditionalization of your content is done using attributes. So for example, let's say I have a step inside of a task, and that step is relevant for a certain version of the product. Okay? So I can put an attribute on that step, product equals, you know, version A or version B, or this step is relevant only when the platform is Windows or Linux or whatever it is. Okay, so you can use these conditional attributes to define some kind of a context for when the content would be relevant and when it should be excluded. Okay. Okay. So we got very quickly through the first bullet here, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up an authoring tool. In this case, we're going to use Xnetl, just for the purpose of showing you some topics. And we'll kind of go through the process of actually looking at a topic and maybe creating a new one. So I'm going to Alt-Tab XMetal. Okay. Maybe for the next webinar we can use Oxygen. There are a number, like I mentioned last time, there are a number of different XML editors out there. There's basically 3 of them that are highly used. One of them is XMetal, another is Oxygen, another one is Arbortext. I'm not trying to do a comparison or an advertisement for any of them, but this is an XMetal and very widely used. So what I have here is a task, okay, and as we said before, we have the basic task has the task element, which really includes everything. Here, I just clicked on the task. Okay, see how it all highlights. Okay, inside the task, we have a title. Like I said before. Okay, we have a prologue, which might have some meta information in there, which we'll talk about later. Okay, and then we have the main body of the content, which is the task body. Okay, inside the task body, like we mentioned before, we can have several different structural elements. We can have context information about when I would want to use this task. Okay, and inside that structural element, in this case context, I have a number of body elements. I have a note, I have a paragraph. There's another paragraph. Okay, and then I have my set of steps. Okay, in the set of steps, I have several step elements. Okay, so the steps element is a container for the step elements. Okay, for each step, I have the basic text of what needs to be done, and that is inside the command element. Okay. Now, as we said before, the step can contain many things, not just a command. Okay. Now the question is, what can be used inside of a step? Okay. Now, if you remember from last week, or if you remember from the background that you've done previously, the elements that can be used in a particular place in the document, according to the rules, are, according to the standard, is governed by the DTD, the document type definition. And as we mentioned before, the authoring tool is basically running the rules, or constantly validating as you're writing the document to make sure that you're creating a document based on the rule set, based on your template, based on the standard, based on the DTD, okay, or based on the set of tags and elements that are available for you to use in any particular place in the document. Okay, so for example, if I put my cursor here, right after the command, okay, I see on the right side here, turn on my red ball. Okay, you should see on the right side here, okay, a list of elements that are available to me for me to use. So after the command, I have the ability to use choices and choice table, information, step results, etc. If I put my cursor before the command, you'll see that really I don't have very many options at all. I can put a note and maybe a hazard statement. Okay, but that's the only thing that makes sense to put in before the actual command of the step. Okay, or at least according to the standard. Okay. One of the nice things about these, one of the bad things about these webinars is that I can't ask questions and expect to get answers and see your hands go up in the air and ask you to answer them. One of the good things about the webinar is that as folks are having comments about how they would write it and how they would create the standard and what's wrong with it and what's good with it, so we can kind of move ahead of that without interrupting. But I'm sure as we go through this, you'll have different comments and questions about why the standard says it this way or the other way. And that's something we'd be happy to discuss later on or after the webinar. In any case, after the command, we can enter other types of elements. For example, let's say I want to put a step result. Okay, so after I remove the old oil wrench filter with a wrench, I want to have the result. The result will be the oil filter will be detached from the engine. Okay. Etc. Okay. And after the step result, okay, I see that there's actually no other elements I can put in there. There's nothing else that would be relevant to put in. But between the command and the step result, I can still put other information. I can put more information about the step. I can put another set of sub-steps. Okay. So for example, if I have the step is called remove the old oil filter with a wrench, if I want to have a set of sub-steps about I don't know, how to configure the wrench, how to pick the wrench, how to adjust the wrench, whatever it is, I can set a set of sub-steps as well and add them in there. You can also set a step example. Okay, so these are examples of structural elements that can further semantically describe the content. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and make a new topic. Okay, I click on File, New. Okay, let's make another new task. Okay, now what happens with these authoring tools often is that you can set different templates. So when I create a new topic, okay, it will automatically come with a set of tags already there waiting for me to start filling in. And I can either use them or I can delete them. Okay, and as you become more savvy and with DITA and with the authoring tools, and as you're rolling out your implementation, what folks do is they'll create their own templates. They'll say, okay, inside of our template, inside of our topics, or inside of our tasks, we as an organization always have a title, of course, a short description. We have we'll start off with 3 steps. We always have a step example. And we always have a prerequisite, or almost always have a prerequisite. So you can already put that information in there, save it as a template, and then every time someone creates a new task, they will already have that structure in place to start filling in. It's kind of like creating a FrameMaker template or a Word template that already has certain paragraphs or headings already filled in that you can already start putting in, or maybe even putting instructions to the author about what information needs to go in each paragraph or inside of each element. Okay, you can do the same thing over here. So let's say we're making a new task, how to, let's say, running a GoToMeeting webinar. Okay, and just put a short description in there, and then I can have a set of steps. So in this case, I can have a list of informal steps, which is basically a list of bulleted items instead of numbered items. It turns out to be, but I'm going to just delete that because it's not relevant. And I'm going to choose, first of all, to have a prerequisite. Okay, and if you notice, it put a paragraph inside the prerequisite. Again, inside the prerequisite, sometimes we have one line of text, but often we can have more than one line of text. We can have paragraphs and list items and maybe an image, maybe a figure, etc. Okay, so you can say the prerequisite for running a GoToMeeting webinar is to create before creating your webinar. Make sure to write a description and publicize it in places where people will find it. For those of you who are sensitive to advertisements, relevant people who are likely to be interested will find it. Okay, you got the idea. So after the prerequisite now I can maybe create a set of steps. So I double-clicked on the steps over there, and it automatically gives me my first step element. Okay, and I'm going to type in the first step. So bring the webinar, open the link, to start the webinar. Okay, I'm not going to bore you with this, but you get the idea. After this set of steps, okay, I can go and create a post requisite or a result, okay, the result of the webinar, and go on from there. Okay, now we talked about elements. Now I'd like to show you a little bit about attributes. You notice in the bottom here we have the element list, but we also have a little inspector here, or a little interface where we have the list of attributes that are possible to add in for each element in the document. So, for example, if I click inside of the task element, I'll put my cursor right up here, okay, right here between task and title, okay, I will see that on the top here it says, I am now looking at the attributes for the task, okay, not the prerequisite and not a step, but I'm right now looking or focusing on the task element, which is really the main element for the entire task, for the entire topic. Okay, now for the entire topic I can add attributes, for example, the ID. Okay, in this case XML gave me a default ID, but I can make a new ID. I can call it running a GoToMeeting webinar. Okay, I can also add conditional attributes like we spoke about before. Okay, I can say that this webinar is relevant for, let's see, trainers, okay, or let's say salespeople. Okay, now if I want to add an attribute on this step over here, right, I click inside the step, and now, as you see, in the inspector tells me that I'm now entering an attribute for this step. Okay, and now I can say, if I want, I can give this step an ID. Okay, and I can, again, apply conditional attributes if I would like. Okay. This is an example of how attributes work inside of XML, inside of the XML. Now, let's take a look at some other elements. What I'm seeing in the screen here, I'm seeing in this view of the screen is basically showing me the structure of the document. Okay, along with some kind of a formatting hint of what this would look like. Okay, and we need to be careful of is that how XML, like we said before, is always separating the content from the format. So what XML or the authoring tools are going to be doing is kind of presenting to you some kind of a format that makes sense to you or give you some kind of indication of the type of element you're typing into as an author. Okay, this is not what your readers are going to see. Okay, your readers would be seeing something different based on the style sheets that you develop for them, either for the PDF or to help with the knowledge base or whatever you're going to be publishing. Okay, so whether you're publishing to an output, you use style sheets, or you're using a tool like an authoring tool, the authoring tool is really using a style sheet underneath. Okay, I'm going to give you another example. See, it says here short description, right? Here, I'm going to type in a short description. Now see the text here, it says short description. This is actually not actually in the content. It's the authoring tool is giving me, using the style sheet, is giving me some kind of indication of type of element that I'm typing in. Okay. Now, most of the authoring tools give you three views. One view is like this, where you see the content and the structure, the tags. Okay. And I tend to recommend that people use. Another one is called normal text view, which is basically a view of the topic without any of the tags. Okay. So ostensibly, you would be able to start typing, clicking enter, and having the tags magically enter there for you. But generally, it doesn't work that way unless it's a very, 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 very simple type of topic. Okay, because you really hard to see where you are in the top in the structure. And the other view here is called plain text view. which basically gives you the XML view of the document. Okay, this really shows you how it would look if you opened this in a text editor. Okay, and you see there's no formatting here. It's all tags and all elements. Okay, here I have the tag. Task starts, task ends. I have prerequisite starts here and ends here. Okay, with a paragraph in the middle. Okay, I have set of steps. Okay, and I have my attributes here. For example, in this task, here's the ID that we set, and here's the audience that we set. Okay. By the way, conditional attributes in DITA are delimited by spaces. So if you want that this has to be relevant to or conditionally relevant to two types of audiences, trainers and salespeople, then you would have a space in between, not a comma or anything else. Okay. So there's basically those three types of views. I generally recommend to set up the authoring system so that you're always using the task view. It gives you, it's kind of a best of both worlds. It gives you some kind of a hint of the formatting, so it makes it easier to author and to understand where in the document you are without always having to kind of look at the tag. On the other hand, it gives you the structure of the tags there in front of you, so it's harder to make mistakes. It's easier to choose the correct structure that you need. Okay. Okay. What I'm going to do now is jump back to the presentation, and we're going to move on a little bit. So you should be seeing the presentation again. We talked about the topics. Now we're going to talk about maps. Okay, maps are those things that assemble all those topics into some kind of sequence or some kind of hierarchy for some kind of deliverable, whether it be print or online or whatever you want it to be. Okay, you can organize the topics into a hierarchy, although you don't have to. Okay, so for example, if you want to have heading levels, okay, the heading levels would be created by organizing your topics into a hierarchy. For example, if you have a topic and then a topic nested inside of another topic, you're basically creating a heading level, heading 1 level, and then a heading 2 level. Okay, and then you can create as many levels as you want. And by the way, what that really means, if you kind of think a couple steps ahead, is that means I can take one topic and one map. It might be heading level 1. In another map, it may be heading level 2 or 3. Okay, so depending on how you put the positioning in the hierarchy that you put your topic, that will determine how it is presented in the hierarchy to the user as a heading level. If it's a PDF, for example, you would see clearly, generally, that it would be a heading level 1, and then underneath it, you would have heading level 2 and 3. If it would be an online help system, you would basically see in the table of contents and the navigation, you would see the heading level 1, and then underneath it, nested in the TOC, the table of contents, you would see the head loading tool, etc. Okay, so the hierarchy basically helps to from a formatting point of view, and from when a table of contents is created from a navigational point of view, it creates the hierarchy. You can also use submaps within those maps. So let's say you have a set of chapters. You have a map that represents a book, and then you want to have a map that represents a set of topics that would be in the chapter. Okay, and you can very well do that. Many people have a map and put a set of topics that represent a chapter. Okay, and then they take all of those chapter maps and link them into the main map. So just like you would make a link or reference in a map to a topic, you can make a reference in a map to another map, and so on. You can create a whole hierarchy of maps. So basically, it essentially allows you to create building blocks of content, and then either help you to manage them or to reuse them. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a technical writing group. You have several people on your team, and you want to have assign one writer to be working on one chapter, or maybe one part of a chapter. You want someone else to be working on another set of topics. Okay, you can create maps for each of those sets of topics, and then each of those authors can basically manage those topics inside of the map. It makes it kind of easier for them to keep a hold on the topics that they're using. Okay. Now the maps can be filtered using the conditional processing like we said before. okay, which allows you to do what's called a master map or reusing a map. So let's say, for example, you have a map, let's say an admin guide, administration guide, and that admin guide is useful or relevant or uses basically the same set of topics for 3 different products. Okay, and 3 different products or 3 different versions or options of my product in the same product line, and it's basically the same map, the same set of topics goes into that book. But for one product line, for one product in the product line, maybe a certain topic is relevant but not relevant for the others, or vice versa. So what you can do is you can put all the different topics inside that map, and then use conditional processing or use the conditional attributes inside the map to determine which topics should be included and excluded from the map during publishing time, depending on how you want to publish that map for which product. Okay, that's basically I think the most prevalent way that maps and conditional processing are used. Now, the cool thing about maps is that you can create deliverables, but you can create different types of deliverables. So some people like to organize their content as like a solution-oriented ordering, or some folks like to use task-oriented or feature-oriented. And the truth is you can do any kind. You can write your topics once and then order them any way you want for any type of deliverable. Okay. Now, their maps, just like topics, can be specialized. Maps can also be specialized. So we'll see that 2 of them, I think, the most popular map specializations are the Bookmap specialization, basically a map that can represent a full book. We'll see what that looks like, or a learning module or a learning specialization map specialization where you can create learning modules. Okay. I'm not going to go into that too much. Now, here's the hierarchy of a map. Now, the truth is this looks a hell of a lot more complicated than it needs to be. The reality of the situation is that a map has a set of topic refs. Okay? So a topic ref is a reference to a topic. And what you'll have is a list of topic refs, which are in some kind of a sequence and some kind of a hierarchy. All the other stuff here, map refs and topic groups, are ways of grouping topics, of creating headers for topics, of creating metadata for topics. But the basic part of a map are the topic refs. Okay, references or lists of links to topics that form your publication. Okay. Okay, and then I kind of skipped over this a little bit. A book map, we said is a specialization of a map. So it doesn't just have those topic refs and topic groups and topic metadatas and things like that, but it basically specializes those groupings to form more semantic groupings. So for example, my book map has a title. I can have front matter. Okay, inside that front matter group you might have an index, table of contents, you might have other topics that you want to include inside your front matter, maybe legal information, maybe introduction information. Okay, but basically what you're doing is creating structural elements or some kind of structure to add topics or group the topics in a way that makes sense for a book as we know it, or we're used to knowing it, right? So for example, at front matter, I can have a set of chapters. Okay, I can have a set of parts. So for example, let's have several chapters inside of inside of a part. Okay, part 1 and part 2 inside of part 1 would be in the list of chapters, etc. I have appendices. Okay, back matter again might have an index, might have a glossary, etc. Right. Now I can also have a relationship table, which we'll talk about shortly. Okay. Okay. Now this slide talks a little bit about the different types of things you can have in front matter. For example, book lists, notices, preface, all kinds of different things like that. Same with back matter. Okay. These are things that you, again, as you're modeling your own content, you can decide which of these elements are useful, which elements are not useful. You use what's useful, and you don't use what's not useful. Okay. Okay. So we got through the next section. I'm going to jump back to XMetal. You should be seeing XMetal coming onto your screen. What I have here is I opened up a map inside of XMetal. Okay. What XMetal does here, when I opened the map is it kind of shows me the map in a nice hierarchy here. So really what's happening here is I have a map, I have a topic called Garage Tasks. Inside that, or nested inside of that topic, I have a set of other topics. Okay? And in this way I can create a hierarchy. And this tool, as well as Oxygen and the other tools, will give you ways of inserting new topics, topic references, new topics into your map, okay, new topic headings, groupings, adding new maps, linking to new maps. For example, if you have a chapter, if you want to set a putting in a set of maps that represent chapters, you can make lit maps, you can make references to maps, etc. Okay, now what I'm going to do here is to show you that this is really just a nice interface to something that's very basic. Okay, there's no voodoo or magic going on here. I'm going to switch to the XML view of this map. Once I click on that, XML is going to open up for me, okay, the XML rendition of this map. So again, I have the map. The map element is the main element or the root element inside of this XML file. Okay, let's skip the row table for a second. I'm going to close this. I'm clicking on the little minus sign here. Okay, and then I have a set of topic refs. So I have a reference to a topic. So I have a reference to a topic called Garage Tasks. Okay, and indented or inside that, or nested inside of that topic ref, I have another topic ref, changing the oil. Okay, in this example, I actually have a couple of different ones. I have another subtopic called changing the oil in your tractor, washing the car, etc. Okay, but I have a series of topics in some kind of hierarchy, right, which basically creates heading levels. Okay, that's basically what's happening over here. If I go back to switch to the map editor, it gives me an interface that allows me to kind of manage that. So on the left side, you'll see the map again. I can open it up. Okay, and I can decide, okay, I want to maybe make this topic to be the same level as changing the oil in the car. So I can take this and use the little arrow here and promote it to a higher level. Okay. Again, if I were to go and switch to the XML view, then you would see that this topic ref is now nested inside of the main topic here, Garage Tasks, and not inside of the topic before it. Okay. What I'm going to do is jump back to the slideshow. Oops. Okay. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about, and this will probably bring us to the end, is linking methods. There are several different ways that you can, types of links that you can create inside of DITA. And the truth is that many of these are similar to types of references you would make in your more traditional unstructured documentation. Okay, but there are some that are special. So one type of link is hierarchy links. Okay, another is cross references, related links, those component references, and something called keys or key refs, which is called indirect addressing, which will probably make your head spin a little bit. So we'll maybe say a few words about it and then try to get it across. Hierarchy links are links that are created based on the hierarchy in the map. So just as you saw, we were making the map with topic refs, and topic refs which can be nested inside of each other, or maps which can be nested inside of other maps, which can be nested inside of other maps which have topics inside of them. So often what happens is when you publish that content, okay, either using the DITA toolkit or other tools, what will happen is links are generally created automatically to the parents and to the children. For example, if you have a topic and then you have a set of topics listed underneath, you might have more information, or you might have a set of links, a set of links at the end of the topic showing a list of child links, or links that are underneath the hierarchy. And often we've seen that in help files. Sometimes even in PDF files, in printed manuals, we'll see something similar to that. But essentially, the hierarchy links are created based on how you organize the map. And those are generated automatically. Okay, cross-references are links to another element, either a link to another topic or a link to another element inside of a topic. Okay, so for example, if I have a task, I can make a cross-reference to another task or cross-reference to another piece of reference information. Okay, if I have the task about changing the oil, I might have a reference topic that lists the different types of oil for different types of cars or different types of engines, for example. Okay. Or I might have a link to a particular step in a topic or in a task. Now, generally what will happen is the authoring tools have an interface that allows you to, when you click on Insert Topic, or Insert Reference, it will give you a nice interface for choosing the topic you want to link to and choosing the element within the topic that you want to link to. And by clicking and using that interface, again, just kind of like using FrameMaker or Word, if that's what you're used to, okay, it will create automatically the syntax inside of the topic. Okay. Another type of link is called related links. Okay, now related links can be embedded inside the topics. The truth of the matter is that most people, I think, do not use related links inside their topics. Most often people will use relationship tables inside of their maps, and we'll talk about that in more detail. Now, okay, so a relationship table basically defines a set of relationships between topics based on a tabular format. Okay, so and we'll see what that means. But basically, you can say, okay, I'm going to make a table or a matrix that basically lists different types of relationships between the topics. Okay, and now the relationship table is created and stored inside of a map. We spoke about last week about how it makes sense that a map is really a container or a binder for a set of topics that go along with a deliverable. If you're creating for print or online help, right, then often you'll have a hierarchy like we just spoke about inside your map. But often what you'll have is a set of rules for or information about how those topics are related to each other. Okay, and just like maps can be reused and included inside of other maps, so relationship tables also can be created and then reused inside of other maps. So if you have a list of relationships between different topics, different types of information in your documentation set, you can reuse that information in many of your maps. Create it once and reuse it many times. Okay. So here's an example in this next slide about how the relationships work. So each column in the table represents a type of topic. Okay, and each row in the table represents one set of relationships. Okay, so for example, in this set of relationship, I see that I could say that this DITA concept, right, is related to this topic, which is a reference. Okay. Then I create a new set of relationships. I say, okay, now I want to say this concept is related to this task and also related to these references. Okay. These references, topics, are related to this task. So imagine, for example, you have a task that's called changing the oil in your car. Okay. Now I have two topics that are referenced. One is a list of motor oils that are relevant for different types of cars, different types of engines. I might have another table of information, which is maybe a maintenance schedule for different types of cars or for different geographical locations, whether you're living in Antarctica or in the Sahara Desert, right? How often you might want to change the oil. Okay, so I have two reference topics. I also have a concept topic, which describes the importance of changing the oil in some kind of a regular schedule, and maybe more information about types of oil, etc. Who knows? Okay, but these are basically 5 topics, or let's say 4 topics that really travel together. They live together. Okay, they're all related to each other. So when I link into my map the task, right, and it's printed inside of a PDF, or it is generated into a help file, I want to see a list of links that says, for more information, see these 3 topics, these 2 reference topics about the motor oil and the maintenance schedule, as well as the more general information about changing oil. Okay, now I'm going to say something, I'm going to point out something that may be obvious, but it takes a long time to get into people's habits. And that is that topics are for one question and one question only. We have a task, and we have references, and we have concepts. There are 4 different topics. Okay, what we're all used to doing in unstructured documentation is creating a task, and inside the task we start loading it with information about maintenance schedules and oils and everything else. And before we know it, we have a task which should really have 4 or 5 different pieces of information or different steps, but it's burdened with all kinds of information that may or may not be useful for the reader at that time. Okay, the point of DITA is to have topics to answer one question. Each of those questions or each of those topics can be linked together, either in a hierarchy and or using relationship tables. Okay, conrefs, as we spoke about before, are content references. The content references is a method for creating components and reusing those components in different parts of your content. So for example, if I have a set of steps that I reuse in many different procedures, okay, I can make a conref to a step inside of another topic. Or if I have a note or a warning or a caution that I reuse many times in different topics, I can create a topic which has a list of commonly used notes. Okay, and then in my other topics, I can reuse those notes by making a conref. Okay, and that goes to any level, whether it be reusing a phrase, reusing a structured element like a step, reusing a chapter in a map. Okay, anything, it goes for basically any level. Okay, and there's ways of doing content ranges, of choosing a set of steps instead of just one step, etc. So there's a lot of different flexibility in using that in those content references. Okay, the last type of referencing that we'll talk about very, very briefly is called something called indirect or key-based addressing, which basically allows you, instead of linking directly to a particular element, you can list to like a variable, or you can list to what's called a key, and that key points to another set of elements. And basically what that allows you to make is create a set of pointers and then decide later on where those pointers are going to be resolving to. Okay, it's basically another way of creating another level of sophistication or complexity or flexibility, as you were, to reusing content. Okay, so a whole bunch of stuff here. I'll leave these in the slides. You can go and look at them. Okay, we're pretty much out of time, and I think we succeeded in getting through pretty much all the material. Again, we had a basic taste of DITA over the past 2 webinars. At this point, you can go and feel free to take a look at the slides. You can be in touch with us to get more advanced training. We are planning an upcoming set of webinars to kind of continue the series of the Quick Start. We'll talk about the DITA Open Toolkit, which is a tool that's used for producing content or publishing content. We'll talk about information architecture. We'll talk more about building a solution to the tool set. And then we'll talk about in list of several sessions or series of sessions about actually running a DITA project. Okay, creating project plan, style sheets, requirements, conversions, etc. On our site, you'll see more about the Quick Start program, how we can help you out in these various steps. If you're just thinking about it, feel free to join us for the webinars. If you're a little bit more advanced in your decision making, or you're moving toward the migration, we'd be happy to help you and get you started. Feel free to be in touch with us for any other information that we can help you with. Thank you very much for joining us, and I really hope that you found this valuable, and look forward to having you participate and joining us again in the future. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Okay, this is Herzl Hefter again. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we hope you found this presentation enjoyable and informative. Please, again, take note of the upcoming webinars, and if you found this webinar helpful, please help us spread these resources within our technical community, and take a moment to follow us on LinkedIn Thank you very much, and we're looking forward to seeing you again in the future at these webinars. Take care, and thanks again.